Today we're here for an unveiling. We're unveiling an urban farm, one of the biggest urban farms that will be based here in District 3. And we're here to address the food insecurities that this district has faced for decades. And I think what's so innovative about this idea is that we've partnered with Washington High School, with Greenleaf Farms. We're going to be partnering with the American Heart Association to bring together an ag STEM program that's going to cultivate new, young, fresh blood in urban farming that's going to really be focused on how we can move together as a community in addressing food insecurities within Atlanta. It is time that we take action in our own hands and we start cultivating innovative opportunities like an urban farm, like a grocery retail model where we can pipeline produce into the communities and really help lift up and support our residents.
One, two, three, cut.
Hooray!
Yeah. This is called Centennial Yards, formerly the Gulch. And of course, this whole development was passed in 2018 by the Atlanta City Council. So this is one of the first pieces of development. There's about 15 different parcels that will eventually be developed over the next 10 to 15 years. So the first portion here is at Ted Turner Drive and Peter Street, which is in the Castleberry Hill neighborhood. And there's 162 apartments that have been rehabilitated to its natural historic beauty. So this is an old building that was probably built somewhere around 1910. There are studios and 1- and 2-bedroom apartments. So this development is actually the gateway to further development in Southwest Atlanta. Castleberry Hill has really been flourishing along with other areas in Southwest Atlanta. We're just very excited about the development that's happening in this area. It's going to anchor this end of the lower end of downtown Atlanta from Marietta Street, coming back to Castleberry Hill and going further southwest. So this is something that's very exciting, and we're looking forward to more development that will take place.
We're here today at the Maggie Russell Tower to help to provide, along with our partners GenCare and their Executive Director, Councilwoman Carmelita Gum from South Fulton, 80 COVID-19 vaccines for seniors who are here in the building. There are over 400 residences in the Maggie Russell high-rise, but there are about 80 folks who had not received their COVID-19 vaccines. So a lot of the seniors, aren't mobile, meaning they may not have a car or access to transportation, to help them to get vaccinated, to protect them and others who already have been vaccinated in the building from the scourge of COVID-19. It is still important to adhere to the CDC guidelines so that we can beat this pandemic. We are so close to the end of it. Millions of adult Americans have been vaccinated, but we need every American to step up, get a shot in the arm, because it protects yourself, it protects others, it protects our community. The city of Atlanta is still in phase 2. We would like to open up. We can't do so until we have the results in the broader community that our infection rate is beneath 5%, that people are still wearing masks and socially distancing, that everybody is getting vaccinated. The more we do that, the quicker we can go back to normal.
We're out here downtown today celebrating the completion of 4 projects that were voted on during our Downtown Decides participatory budgeting process. And we're riding a bike from one location to the other to do a ribbon cutting at each of the 4 transportation projects. Some of the projects we're celebrating today are new bike lanes in the Central Business District, the painting of an island in the middle of the road yellow so people can see it, and some new trash cans in the Sweet Auburn corridor. This is the direct result of citizens participating in this program. This is the first time we've done participatory budgeting in Atlanta, and it puts the power directly in people's hands on how tax dollars are spent, and we're just thrilled with the response and the success of the program so far.
Chastain Park is the largest park in the city of Atlanta. This is the last piece of the Chastain Park path, and it's taken over 25 years since it began, and we are here at a groundbreaking to celebrate this last piece getting ready to start. You know, the phrase, it takes a village. Well, it certainly takes a village here. There have been lots and lots of organizations who have helped make this happen. I think there are over 500,000 people and probably about 250,000 dogs that use the path each year. It's an asset that is used by many, many people, from young people walking along to people on bikes to people running and exercising and folks coming after work to enjoy a stroll in the park. And the path has really been a catalyst for revitalizing the park, and so lots of park partners here today with NYO and the horse park and the pool, and it's a wonderful time to celebrate together.
Today we're here for an unveiling. We're unveiling an urban farm, one of the biggest urban farms that will be based here in District 3. And we're here to address the food insecurities that this district has faced for decades. And I think what's so innovative about this idea is that we've partnered with Washington High School, with Greenleaf Farms. We're going to be partnering with the American Heart Association to bring together an ag STEM program that's going to cultivate new, young, fresh blood in urban farming. That's going to really be focused on how we can move together as a community in addressing food insecurities within Atlanta. It is time that we take action in our own hands and we start cultivating innovative opportunities like an urban farm, like a grocery retail model where we can pipeline produce into the communities and really help lift up and support our residents.
One, two, three, cut.
This is called Centennial Yards, formerly the Gulch, and of course this whole development was passed in 2018 by the Atlanta City Council. So this is one of the first pieces of development. There's about 15 different parcels that will eventually be developed over the next 10 to 15 years. So the first portion here is at Ted Turner Drive and Peter Street, which is in the Castleberry Hill neighborhood. And there's 162 apartments that have been rehabilitated to its natural historic beauty. So this is an old building that was probably built somewhere around 1910. There are studios and 1 and 2 bedroom.
Good afternoon, everyone. We are going to get started in just about 1 minute. right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Matt Westmoreland. I'm the chair of the Community Development and Human Services Committee. Today is Tuesday, May 11th, and this is our regularly scheduled meeting. I am joined by my colleagues Carla Smith, Dustin Hillis, and Joyce Shepard. So we have a quorum. I expect our colleagues, Councilmember Michael Bond, Antonio Brown, and Madeline Archibong to join us shortly. Before we begin, I wanted to take a moment to recognize a former chair of this committee and frankly several other council committees, former Councilman C.T. Martin, who passed away on Saturday morning at the age of 84. He was a graduate of Atlanta Public Schools and served as a member of this body from 1990 until his retirement in 2017, and was a towering figure in Southwest Atlanta, but frankly in all of Atlanta, and longtime chair of community development as well as the transportation and public safety committees. And so I wanted to take a moment to remember him at the start of our meeting. And with that, I will ask Ms. Colandini to kick us off.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This Community Development Human Services Committee meeting is being conducted remotely as advertised and as in accordance with OCGA 50-14-1. The meeting will be conducted in conformance with Robert's Rules of Order and the Rules of Council as authorized by the City Code. The public may access the meeting by dialing 877-579-6743, conference ID 831-599-1256, which was noted on the May 7, 2021 public meeting notice. The public may also view the meeting on Channel 26, the Council's homepage at citycouncil.atlanta.ga.gov, the Council's YouTube channel, or the Council's Facebook and Twitter pages via @ETL Council. All presentations are available on the Atlanta City Council Community Development Human Services Committee presentation page. The agenda was published and made available on May 7, 2021 via atlantacitygA.iqmc.com. In addition, the public was able to submit comments via voicemail at 404-330-6089 between the hours of 4 and 7 p.m. the day before this meeting. All persons present on the remote council meeting conference boards are requested to mute their phones and speakers. Additionally, the speakers must be acknowledged by the presiding officer prior to speaking. Each council member is requested to open their Outlook email and minimize the screen. Amendments, substitutes, and informational documents have been distributed to committee members beforehand. Thank you all in advance for your cooperation. And Mr. Chair, would you like me to conduct a roll call of the members?
Sure.
Okay. Councilmember Archibong?
Here.
Councilmember Bond? Councilmember Brown? Councilmember Hillis?
Here.
Councilmember Shepard? Present. Councilmember Smith?
Here.
Thank you. We have 5 members present.
Thank you much. All right, colleagues. Next up is going to be the adoption of the agenda. As you all know, our online system is not working today, so we're going to take a series of voice votes like we did 2 weeks ago. And so I will kick us off with a motion to adopt the agenda. Is there a second?
Brown.
All right. I'm joined by Mr. Brown, and I will take his second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Any abstentions? All right. By a vote of 6-0, that motion passes. I'll make a motion to approve our minutes. Is there a second? Second, Hillis. Thank you. Motion by Westmoreland, second by Hillis. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Any nays? And any abstentions? All right. By a vote of 6-0, our minutes are approved. Mr. Massenberg, will you please play our 7 minutes and 18 seconds of public comment?
I am Brother Anthony Muhammad, a full spiritual being, having a human experience, and have no need for religion anymore. I ask this Community Development and Human Resource Committee to recognize what the Mayor, Chief Celeste Bottom, have decided to do. Not to run for a second term. You members of this Community Development and Human Resource Committee have been electing your constituency in Atlanta. The majority of people in the city of Atlanta, the Georgia or darker here. Person, darker and brown. And yet we don't have access to economic empowerment through the non-workforce development program. You constantly doing the Shirley Franklin tenure, doing Mr. Brady tenure, and of course, this Keisha Lance. I want to know why. Is it that we are not getting support from members of this administration and council? You have Ms. Shelford, you have Ms. Winslow, you have even other members of council, Mr. Dixon, that has sit on this committee, and you know every term of the last administration. Now, that was the money going back to the federal government supposed to be appropriated and allocated for the benefit that be utilized by the non-workforce. And then money grants been given by the federal government to help with person being able to have training. Jobs in North Atlanta, you don't give people job technical work with training. You only need allowed to work with them. And yet you can have them now cry and say, let the young man run down the street and sell water. And we sure you have a young man get his footprint over. But you got your numbers up there. A lot of work for 30 to 50 members for $50 million budget. You never have these right by your own people that look like you, members of a lot of workforce government as well as the man. And now you councilmen, I just named you ones that been there for years. Don't give a darn about helping your people be free. This is Brother Anthony Muhammad. They are Lakeshore Hotel. Excellent.
Dear Holy Spirit of Christ, my name is Henry Jordan. He that findeth his life shall lose it, and he that loseth his life for my sake shall find it. Matthew 10, chapter 39, verse. Finding his life means to wrongfully gain something out of life for oneself. Search is never satisfied. It creates problems that will lead to death. James Montgomery. Seeking to please Jesus creates the income. To please you will not create the income. You have plowed wickedness. You have reaped iniquity. You have eaten the fruit of lies, because thou didst trust in thy way, and the multitude of thy mighty men. Hosea 10, chapter 13, verse. They that plow iniquity reap the same, meaning you reap what you sow. In whom you also trusted. After that you heard the word of truth, the gospel of your salvation, in whom also after that you believed, you were sealed with the Holy Spirit of promise. Ephesians 1, chapter 13, verse. In biblical times, a seal denoted both identification of ownership and protection provided by the owner. Jesus, let us seek your ownership and protection. Therefore, turn thou to thy God. Keep mercy and judgment, and wait on thy God continually. Hosea 12, chapter 6, verse. Israel has forgotten Jacob's spiritual wrestling with God. Israel, as did Jacob, must come to the end of itself and find its strength in God alone. Your strength will fail, and Jesus' strength cannot fail. Christ made us to serve him and him only. Give us that power, Jesus, to serve you only. Can no one help you like you can?
Greetings, council members and staff, and special greetings to you citizens and voters of Atlanta, watching and listening to your government in action. Ben Howard, senior advocate, public policy analyst. Typically, approximately 1/10 of 1% of the 20,000 citizens and stakeholders of neighborhood planning unit R attend the virtual NPUR meetings. The Antonita Robinson as the 2021 Vice Chair, and Ricardo Jacobs and Clovis Clare pulling strings in the background, the concerns of NPUR citizens are still being ignored. So where are you, NPUR 9? While properties in the 2100 block and the 2200 block of Montrose Avenue and Evans Park are being gobbled up by businesses and corporations. Where are you, NPUR 9, while the District 11 Councilmember is trying to decide where the new security cameras should be placed? Where are you, NPUR 9, while the chair of your zoning committee is holding clandestine meetings and endorsing the development of expensive housing units with price points at $325,000? Where are you, NPUR 9, while the residents are trying to find out what will happen to renters once the moratorium on evictions is lifted? Where are you, NPUR 9, while residents are still trying to understand why senior citizens and disabled persons are not receiving notices of NPUR 9 meetings? Where are you, NPUR 9, while residents of the Atlanta Housing Authority are being given notices to vacate and have to sign leases without being given printed copies of those leases? Stand up and speak out on behalf of the residents and stakeholders of NPUR 9, of NPUR, Antonita Robinson, Clovis Clare, Ricardo Jacobs, Albert White, Lynette L. Scott, Allison Hathaway, Sherry Williams, Cheryl Brown, and you other NPUR 9 cohorts and enablers.
All right. Thank you very much to those members of the public for your comments today. Next up on our agenda is a presentation quarterly update from Clyde Higgs of the Atlanta Beltline. Mr. Higgs, you there?
Here, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear? I am here, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. Great. Well, thank you, Chairman Westmoreland and members of the committee. I want to share some of the latest updates about the Atlanta Beltline project for you today. And before I get started in the official presentation, I just want to take this moment again just to say anything that you see here in this presentation is really a collection of the efforts within the various units within the city of Atlanta, our not-for-profit partners, the private sector. We just happen to be the quarterback for some of these efforts, but truly they are just not a Beltline initiative. It really takes a collection of all these organizations to make these things happen. And so just wanted to acknowledge the great work of all of the partnering organizations out there that really help to push this agenda forward. And so we'll go to the first slide that talks about our affordable housing efforts. And so this is a slide that we like to show that kind of gives you our scorecard against the 5,600 units of affordable housing that we are committed to produce by the end of 2030. And so this slide represents, roughly 2,300 units of affordable housing that has been created within the tax allocation district. And then you'll see on the left of the slide, there's been just over 1,000 units that's been created just generally close to the Atlanta Beltline trail. And so together, those represent about 3,300 units of affordable housing that's been created. But just to be clear, the number that we use against the 5,600 unit number is over on the right. You can see the number that's roughly 2,300 units of affordable housing. And then also what you'll see is on the left of the chart, we have about 900 units that are in our pipeline. So these are units that are going to be created in the future. And the great thing about our pipeline is that the majority of those units are at 60% of area median income and below. We'll go to the next slide, please. And so this slide is, again, acknowledgement, again, of the great work of our partners. but Rob Bronner and the Atlanta Beltline Partnership deserve significant credit for standing up what we describe as a legacy retention fund. This is a fund that is ultimately going to pay the rising property tax bills for legacy residents that have been in key Beltline neighborhoods, again, for a long time. And this fund will ultimately pay the difference in their property tax values that have increased over a number of years. This program is mimicked after the Westside Future Fund legacy retention program. And although this slide says that about 21 families, residents have been approved, the most recent update is that about 33 families have been approved for funding under this legacy resident retention program. Let's go to the next slide here, please. And so this slide, really tells the story of our strategy with regard to Beltline and our affordable housing efforts. And so we are in the posture of truly trying to secure sites, meaning owning land around the Beltline, which will ultimately allow us to do what we describe as deeper affordability, so meaning 60% and below. And then it will also allow us to do long-term or perhaps even permanent affordability along the Beltline. And you'll see the bullets here, Madison Reynoldstown, Murphy Crossing, Avon, Garson, and the Chapel Road site. And it's interesting, so the Chapel Road site, and let's go to the next slide here, please. So the Chapel Road land acquisition deal was a big one for us. This was truly the largest site acquisition in Beltline history with regards to affordable housing and job creation. And so this is roughly a 31-acre site in the Bankhead historic Western Heights neighborhood, and definitely need to acknowledge the Brock family for selling us this land. We secured this site at roughly $25 million, which was a significant discount compared to market values. And so really excited about this because we all know that this is a community of interest. And with all the recent announcements and investments that have been made near this area, it was really important for us to secure this site for long-term and deep affordability in this, again, this neighborhood of interest. Really excited about this just because it really touches on things that are really important to the Beltline, and that's like being close to transit and making sure that the residents, the neighborhoods have access to transportation options, again, near the Beltline. And so really excited that this deal has been complete, and lots of players to make this happen. And then definitely want to acknowledge, the Beltline team from the real estate, housing, finance, operations, and legal to really push this forward. And so just wanted to acknowledge those partners out there that really helped us to push this forward. Again, I've been probably preaching over the last 24 months, 30 months or so, that we want to be in this posture, again, of acquiring sites, because ultimately that's going to pay dividends for the city from a long-term perspective by having these key sites in control or controlled by the public sector. You can go to the next slide here. And so you'll see that this is the Chapel Road site there at the north. That is North Avenue, and on the west of this slide is actually Chapel Road. So that just gives you hopefully a good picture of what the site looks like. And again, this is probably half a mile away from the Bankhead MARTA station. Go to the next slide. And so the next slide talks about Garson. So Garson is another site that the Beltline team acquired some time ago, and this is in the Lindbergh, South Buckhead area of Atlanta. It's roughly 3 acres, and definitely need to acknowledge Wells Fargo and Atlanta Beltline partnership for enabling this deal to happen. Our goal is to make sure that we have good geographic diversity in the sites that we control. So not only just in the southern parts of town, but we're looking across the entire Beltline loop, again, to acquire those key sites. We'll go to the next slide. And so the next slide is about Murphy's Crossing. And so you may have heard about this site before, but this is roughly a 22-acre site right off the West Side Trail of the Atlanta Beltline. We're really excited about the potential of Murphy, and we had significant community input for the latest request for proposal, the RFP that was released recently, and definitely heard from the community representatives, and also want to acknowledge Councilmember Shepard for her leadership in this as well. But really excited and bullish on what the private sector will bring to us as far as ideas for the Murphy's Crossing site. But with the prevailing thoughts that this will be a key site for job creation, green space, and affordable housing. That RFP closes August the 3rd. Go to the next slide. And this slide starts off with some of our updates on trail activity. And so you may have read also recently that the Beltline team has partnered with the Path Foundation to help us study what we describe as the northwest segment of the Atlanta Beltline. And for those that are in the audience that are listening, just roughly what we're talking about, if you believe the Beltline is a dial, we're roughly talking about 9 o'clock to 12 o'clock on the dial. And so we partnered with the Path Foundation to help us to accelerate just studying and designing and ultimately constructing this significant segment of the Atlanta Beltline. There's going to be a community opportunity on May 24th to make sure that we are listening to community needs, and but really excited about this partnership, again, with the Path Foundation. We'll go to the next slide here. And talking about the Path Foundation, and so this was a socially distanced ribbon cutting with the Path Foundation. You'll see Greta Diamayo in the middle of this slide, and Rob Bronner with the Beltline partnership. And so we held this ribbon cutting for what we describe as the West Side Connector Trail. And so you may remember some time ago, the Beltline team acquired some significant land that will ultimately allow the Beltline of the West Side Trail to connect all the way into downtown Atlanta. And so this was, again, an opportunistic deal for us. And so this connector trail opened officially about a month and a half or so ago. But really excited about this partnership. And again, just another shout out to the Beltline partnership, the Path Foundation, Parks and Rec. And again, everything that we do from a Beltline perspective is about those key partnerships. We'll go to the next slide. And this just gives you just a picture of what that West Side Connector Trail looks like. And so again, if you're thinking about on the east, you're talking about Ivan Allen and Northside Drive, and then all the way to the west, where we'll connect at Marietta on the West Side Trail of the Beltline. And we'll go to the next slide, please. And this is just a quick update on the Northeast Trail. And then again, as we're in the spirit of partnerships, you may remember that Georgia Power made a significant contribution donation to the Beltline team to help us to construct the first phase of what we describe as the hairpin line on the northeast segment of the Beltline. And so that first phase is officially open right now. And when we say phase, we mean that it's been paved, but we still do not have the cameras and lighting and some of the traditional landscaping that you would see on the fully built out Beltline trail. And we will start the second phase of that segment here soon. We'll go to the next slide. And so the next slide talks about segment 3 of the West Side Trail. And again, this is a partnership with the Path Foundation, and ultimately it's going to take the Path Foundation on our behalf. It's probably going to take another 12 months for them to construct that segment of the West Side Trail on our behalf. And then we'll go to the final slide here. And this is just something that perhaps is not that well known about the Beltline, but we have the opportunity to install dark fiber communications literally underneath the Beltline. And this will give us enhanced capabilities for communication, for lighting, cameras, Wi-Fi. You can even imagine a scenario where we're able to flip on this fiber and provide perhaps free Wi-Fi to school systems in the APS school system, where students could have access to Wi-Fi right off the Beltline. And so that is being installed with our partner EX Squared, and you will see more activity and announcements about that in the future. But again, just thinking about the comprehensive nature of the Beltline beyond the trail, we are definitely focused on affordable housing, job creation, economic development, transit, environmental cleanup, and the such. But hopefully this provides the committee with just a quick update on the Beltline, and thank you for your support of us and me over the last 30 months. But thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Higgs. I failed to mention at the beginning of your presentation that this is also your birthday, and clearly nobody would rather that doing anything else other than presenting to this committee. So thank you for coming on your special day, and we hope the rest of today is a good one.
Thank you very much.
Sure. Colleagues, any questions or comments? I will make one observation. The mix of on slides 5 and 6 is probably the best way you can see it on slide 6 if we want to go back to the folks watching at home. If you look to the east of and the north of the 31 acres that the Beltline purchased week before last from the Brock family, the city actually owns about another 40 acres, and part of it's in the floodplain and part of it is Maddox Park itself with the pool and tennis courts and some green space, but a significant chunk of it is currently storage space for the Department of Transportation and the Department of Public Works. And so as we think about this particular piece of land and a new acquisition, we actually have significantly more, a couple dozen other acres that is under city control right there on the West Side Trail next to the Proctor Creek Greenway across the street from the Bankhead MARTA station. That provides a pretty unparalleled opportunity for us to do something really special here in the months and years ahead. So really excited about that, and want to publicly thank you and all the folks on your team who made this acquisition possible. Anybody else? All right. Thank you much, sir. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, next up is our regular agenda, and we will start off with ordinances for second reading.
Item number 1, 21-0-0224, an ordinance by Community Development Human Services Committee waiving the requirement of Chapter 2, Article 9, Division 1, Section 2-910 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Atlanta, Georgia, and authorizing the mayor or her designee, including the commissioner of the Department of City Planning, to apply for and accept the Environmental Protection Agency Brownfield Revolving Loan Fund Supplemental Grant in an amount not to exceed $500,000.00 on behalf of the Department of City Planning for the City of Atlanta Brownfield Revolving Loan Fund and for other purposes.
Any questions or comments for Ms. Lavendier? All right, I will make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second, Brown.
Got a motion by Westmoreland, second by Brown. Mr. Bond, have you joined us? Okay. So based on unanimous consent, which would be 6 members present, are there any noes or any abstentions on this item? All right. Based on unanimous consent, this item is favorable 6-0. Next item.
Item number 2, 21-0-0225, an ordinance by Community Development Human Services Committee authorizing the mayor or designee or the chief procurement officer or his designee on behalf of the City of Atlanta to acquire from the Conservation Fund 15 parcels comprising, 15 parcels, to acquire from the Conservation Fund 15 parcels comprising of approximately 5.61 aggregate acres of real property adjacent to Paul Avenue Northwest and Bernard Road Northwest for development as a park at a total purchase price not to exceed $1,071,304.23, authorizing the mayor, her designee, or the chief procurement officer or his designee on behalf of the city to execute all documents necessary to acquire the property, authorizing acquisition, due diligence, closing costs, signage, demolition, site stabilization, and other site development costs to be paid from the Park Impact Fee North account, amending the 2020 General Parks and Recreation and Department of Finance Parks North Service District by transferring to and from various accounts listed, waiving Section 2-1541B of Article 10 of the Procurement and Real Estate Code of the City Code of Ordinances and for other purposes.
Mr. Hillis.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Person Westmoreland. This is in District 9 and actually in my home neighborhood of Riverside. So this is an important step in the vision for a Riverwalk and one of the first acquisitions that's going to help us implement the Chattahoochee Riverlands vision, which is about 8 miles of greenways in the city of Atlanta along the Chattahoochee River. And when I thank those involved, this has been an effort ongoing for over a decade now to obtain these parcels as part of this vision. And the key player in that is Keith Sharp, who lives here in Riverside and has been a big advocate for many, many years for the Chattahoochee and bringing our city to its river. So I want to thank Mr. Sharp, I want to thank the Conservation Fund for their assistance in this, and looking forward to this becoming parkland. So I'll make a motion to approve.
A motion to approve, which I will second. If there are no objections or noes or abstentions, on unanimous consent, that item is favorable 6-0. Thank you much. Next item.
Mr. Chair, that item will need to be referred to the CDHS committee due to waivers of the procurement code. So if we could make a motion and vote to refer.
You mean FTC?
I'm sorry, refer to the Finance Executive Committee. Yes, my apologies.
That's all right. I'll make a motion to refer to Finance Executive. Is there a second?
Second, Hillis.
Motion by Westmoreland, second by Hillis. There are no objections. On unanimous consent, that item is referred.
Our next item is number 3, 21-0-0226, an ordinance by Community Development Human Services Committee authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to amend the fiscal year 2022 general fund budget by transferring an amount not to exceed $29,395,388.79 from the committed fund balance to the Capital Finance Fund and to amend 21-R-3146 by updating the funding account stream for EA-S-1200169 supplemental staffing services and for other purposes.
Thank you. The request is for us to forward this with no recommendation to Finance Executive Committee. Before we do that, either Ms. Allen or Ms. Watkins, could you speak to this paper, please?
I'm sorry, refer to the Finance Executive Committee. Yes, my apologies.
That's all right. I'll make a motion to refer to Finance Executive. Is there a second? Second, Hillis. Motion by Westmoreland, second by Hillis. There are no objections. On unanimous consent, that item is referred.
Our next item is number 4, 21-0-0227,
This is Kimberly. Good afternoon. This is Kimberly Talon, Department of City Planning. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, this legislation is in partnership with the Department of Finance is to move available balances of our committed fund balance through the building permitted activity to the capital projects fund, so that all of the available funds are in one place, and that the Department of City Planning has a more streamlined process to access and use the funds.
Any questions or comments from committee members? All right, I will make a motion to forward with no recommendation to the Finance Executive Committee. Is there a second?
Second, Brown.
I have a motion by Westmoreland and a second by Brown. Any questions or comments or objections? All right, based on unanimous consent of 6 members present, that item is forwarded. Next item.
Item number 4, 21-0-0265, an ordinance by Councilmember Michael Julian Bond to amend the City of Atlanta, Atlanta City Code Part 2, General Ordinances, Chapter 158, Vegetation, Article 2, Tree Protection, to adopt a new tree protection ordinance for the City of Atlanta and for the purposes.
All right, I don't believe Mr. Bond has joined us, but he has expressed a desire earlier for this item to be held, and I will make that motion at this time. Is there a second? Thank you. Motion by Westmoreland, second by Hillis. Any objection? All right, based on unanimous consent of members present, that item is held. Next item.
Our next item is number 5, 21-0-0266, an ordinance by Councilmembers Joyce M. Shepherd and Carla Smith to establish processes and procedures for community garden parks and urban food forests within the City of Atlanta and for the purposes.
Thank you. Ms. Shepherd and or Ms. Smith?
Yes. We're asking to hold this paper. We're still working through some of it to get some things corrected in terms of the paper, or amended, rather, not corrected, but amended. So we'd like to hold.
Okay. Motion to hold from Ms. Shepherd, which I will second.
Yes. Okay.
Any objection? All right. Based on unanimous consent, that item is held. Next item.
Our next item is number 6, 21-R-3440, a resolution by Councilmember Andrea L. Boone authorizing the mayor or her designee to accept an in-kind donation on behalf of the Mayor's Office of One Atlanta from United Way of Greater Atlanta of Uber Technologies Inc. Rideshare Services Code valued at approximately $350,000.00 for the purpose of providing transportation for city residents to and from public and nonprofit managed vaccination sites in support of Atlanta's outreach campaign addressing low vaccination rates amongst 21 census tracts within the City of Atlanta and for the purposes.
Any questions or comments? All right, I will make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second, Smith.
Thank you. Motion by Westmoreland, second by Smith. Any objection? All right, based on unanimous consent of members present, that item is favorable. Next item.
Item number 7, 21-R-3442, a resolution by Councilmember Marcy Collier Overstreet to designate Southwest Atlanta as an opportunity hub and innovation and equity district for the purpose of promoting an equitable and inclusive entrepreneurship ecosystem and for the purposes.
All right, Ms. Overstreet could not join us today, but told me yesterday that she has spoken with Ms. Clementich, who is supportive of this resolution, as obviously is the sponsor. And so if there are no questions or comments among the body, I will make a motion to approve.
Second, Smith.
A motion by Westmoreland and a second by Smith. Any objection? All right, based on unanimous consent, that item is favorable 6-0. Next item.
Item number 8, 21-R-3444, a resolution by Councilmember Natalie M. Archibong requesting the Urban Science Commission to provide a historical contextualization of the statue of Henry W. Grady, located at 50 Marietta Street Northwest, and for the purposes.
Ms. Archibong.
Thank you very much, colleagues. This legislation is asking for the contextualization of the statute that is
on Marietta, close to Peachtree. And the contextualization will allow for there to be more information shared about the parts of his life that, are, not controversial, but also to allow for there to be a distancing from the city's perspective on those parts of his public narrative that was offensive, supporting of lynching, and some other things that he's been associated with. The contextualization, I think, will be important because the statute itself, there's not been a recommendation that it be removed. It was not part of the Jim Crow era. In fact, that statute was erected following his untimely death out of a sense of grief by family and friends who wanted to honor him. And so our work in the past around removal of Confederate-related or Jim Crow-related memorabilia is different than this. And I just think the contextualization is a proper next step. It was one that was recommended by the same group of young people who advocated so effectively for the changing of the name of Grady High School, which we now know will become Midtown High. And so this is in alignment with that. And so I ask for your support as we continue to perfect the record and to allow for us to continue our rich history of being that city too busy to hate. And I think this is something in that right direction. So I move for approval.
Motion by Ms. Archibong, which I will second. Thank you for your leadership as a graduate of Grady High School. Any questions or comments or objections? All right. Based on unanimous consent of members present, that item is favorable. Next up is item number 22.
Item number 22, there's actually a substitute in your packet. The substitute makes some clarifying edits to sections 1, 2, and 3 and attaches Exhibit A, which is the IGA. If the committee would like to bring it forward, and then I'll read the caption.
I'll make a motion to bring forward the substitute. Is there a second?
Second, Smith.
Motion by Westmoreland, second by Smith. If there are no questions, comments, or objections, on unanimous consent, the substitute is before us.
A resolution, 21-R-3207, a resolution by Councilmember Carla Smith, as substituted by Community Development and Human Services Committee, amending Resolution 20-R-4066, was adopted by the Atlanta City Council on August 3, 2020, and approved by Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms on August 11, 2020, and which authorized the mayor on behalf of the City of Atlanta to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with the Fulton County City of Atlanta Land Bank Authority to accept title to certain properties and to reconvey title to said properties to Invest Atlanta in accordance with the IGA, authorizing the city to direct that deeds in lieu of foreclosure to certain properties be issued to LBA on behalf of the city, authorizing the mayor to execute the necessary quitclaim deeds to convey certain properties to the LBA for development, redevelopment purposes in accordance with the IGA and for the purposes.
Smith.
Yes, thank you. Okay, this legislation actually, it solves a lot of problems that I have. This will allow for homes that are like in really bad shape, and let's say it was owned by someone and then they didn't leave a will and they had 5 heirs and nobody's paying the taxes on it. The property's just, it's deteriorating and it's become an eyesore in the neighborhood. And before, really, all we could do was have code enforcement just scream at everyone and send nasty letters, and it didn't always work. Well, what this paper does is this paper allows properties, and right now we're going to start in certain NPUs, but it allows for these properties to be kind of foreclosed on by the city with all these liens and taxes that are due on them. So this money, if the property owner will work with us, the money that's like to tear the house down or to go and mow it and clean it and close it, that money goes into an escrow account, and then the land will be conveyed to the Land Bank Authority, and then The Land Bank Authority will then work with Invest Atlanta, and it will become affordable housing. And it will have some deed restrictions on it. And then once this affordable housing is sold to an owner that is within the, Mr. Humphreys is going to have to help me with this a little bit. The median income that we have set up with this, then after all that is done, then the person that had the property to begin with is free and clear of the liens and the taxes and stuff that was on the property to begin with, but they have to allow us to go through this entire process before, and they have to agree and work with us before everything will be forgiven, and then everyone walks away. And we have an affordable house with a new owner, and a property has been cleaned up. So, like I said, this piece of legislation solves several problems, plus helps keep, because obviously the area that you're doing it in wouldn't have a derelict house if it was not sort of an affordable neighborhood to begin with. I hope you get what I'm saying. And so it keeps an affordable house, but it's a new house that people are living in, so it's contributing to the community. So if y'all don't have any questions about it, now I do have a whole bunch of people here. I've got Don Luke, I've got the do you have the list of people with you, Matt? With the Land Bank Authority, Josh Humphreys is here, LaShondra Barks is here. Everybody can answer your questions if you've got any, but then I'm going to just go ahead right now and make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Smith, which I will second, and then Ms. Shepard.
I just have a question. So are these houses in a certain concentrated area? I know the land bankers do something like this in Pittsburgh. I was just wondering, are they just all in your particular area, Ms. Smith? No problem with it.
Mr. Hunt probably is going to keep me where it's not all in my area, but I did some of my NPUs in there. Mr. Humphreys, can you, I know that they did a substitute and they've worked on this, and
where in the land? I'm just asking, just answer where the land's located.
There's west. Mr. Humphreys, are you here? Can you answer that question?
Hi, everyone. Yes, Councilmember Archibald. So the land is Shepard. Oh, sorry, Councilmember Shepard. Sorry, I apologize. Councilmember Shepard. So it is throughout the city. So this would create a program to allow the properties that have any type of code lien throughout the city to apply for a program to then convert that into a for sale affordable housing option. So it would not be restricted just to Councilmember Smith's district.
So you're saying people can apply for this, people who want to be homeowners. Is that what you're saying?
It would be the property owners that have a code lien. The original resolution created a deed in lieu of foreclosure for properties that had a code lien against them. So rather than go through the foreclosure process, the city could just receive the deed directly and work with either Invest Atlanta or the Land Bank Authority to develop that property once the city received it. The resolution today and the substitute that we're working on would create a separate process where a property owner that does have some type of code lien could apply for a program to develop that property for sale affordable housing. But in producing that, we would forgive the code lien. So we would receive, they would have their debts forgiven, and the product is that we would get a long-term affordable for sale housing option out of the site.
So would the deed owner, the person who owns it, would they sell it, or would the city sell it? Who would sell it and who would get the money?
No, Invest Atlanta is going to work with them on that. They would not sell the house. They have to work with us through the entire process, but they don't get to walk away from their debt that is owed for liens that are against it until the house is sold to someone that would then apply for this program to become a homeowner.
And then at that point is when the debt is is resolved with zero with the previous owner, and then whoever buys the property, that is their property. Is that how it works?
Yes, they'll get plain title because we've got Mr. Norman here from the Land Bank Authority who can give a piece of property. We're working with all of these entities. He can give or his organization can give a piece of property a clean title, and so as this goes through the process, as it's being built on and the house is coming, he's working on clearing the title, and the original property owner is working through this. I think I heard someone else start to talk.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, so anyway, the original property owner has to work to get to the end before their debt that is on the books is forgiven. So, like, okay, let's just use an example property that I started out with. We have a property where the mother and dad had the house. They had 5 children, and that they passed away, didn't leave a will, and now all 5 children are sharing this house, and nobody's maintaining it. It's been burned out, whatever. So now all 5 of those people who owe money, because your code enforcement people have been out there and they fined them and they cleaned and closed it and they've mowed the grass a couple of times, and every time they've done that, they have put a lien on the property, so all those liens will be forgiven, and then they have to just they have to walk away.
Walk away. Now, who repairs the property? Who is going to repair the property and do all of this? Can somebody explain that to me? Who does who does this and does repairs? Is that going to be something that's done through Invest Atlanta or
Atlanta is working with us? Yes.
I mean, I just want more. Make me understand who's going to do it.
Sure, I can, Councilmember, I can try to explain that. So the way the program would work, they would apply, the property owner would apply, and if they're accepted into the program, then the lien amount, let's say it's a $50,000 lien amount for the property. That $50,000 would go into an escrow account while they renovated the property. And then they renovated the property. The existing property owner would renovate the property.
They would renovate the property. Okay.
That's correct. They would renovate the property. The money they owe would be in an escrow account. At the end of the renovation, the city would then approve, okay, this looks good to go. Now you can sell this to a qualified buyer through kind of the process that we've laid out in this. And at the closing transaction to an affordable buyer, then the escrow amount would be forgiven. So the money that was owed, the city is forgiven and given back to the original purchaser. But the property owner, the existing property owners, are the ones that would do the work under this program to renovate the site and get it ready to be sold.
Okay, now I want to, Mr. Humphreys, I do want to say, when we say they, so we're talking about the 5 families that now own this house. They get into this program, and Invest Atlanta will help them find a developer or someone, because they're not going to get out there with hammers and stuff themselves.
And I'm confused about that. I'm trying to figure out, if they don't have the money to keep the house up, how are they going to have money to fix the house up? So where's the money coming for them to fix the house up? Who's going to bring that money to them?
Sure. So the program itself is designed really for the properties that have the capacity to develop it. Sometimes these are purchased through tax sales and other types of things where they are owned by someone who has experience and capacity to develop. That's really what this program is designed for. The other aspect of this resolution, the program that was passed back last year, creates this deed in lieu of foreclosure process and other mechanisms to get the property into productive state. But this particular program would be designed specifically for the owners that do have some capacity to develop. And that's why there would be an application process, so that we don't end up in a situation where someone applies for it that doesn't actually have the capacity to really get this back into good order.
So are these LLC folks who don't flip the houses and purchase the houses to keep, and they're just sitting on it until something happens? We working that with them too? Is that what we're doing also? Is that for anybody?
There could be. there could be situations where there's an LLC that is an ownership of the space, which is why I think it's really important for us and the work we did in the substitute is to make sure that we get long-term affordability out of these sites so that it's not just a kind of a one purchase situation, but for the kind of the future life of this property as an affordable housing property for the city and the city's inventory, and a for sale way that builds wealth for the property owners that live there.
Now, make me understand this again, Doug. How do we make that happen again? And we make sure it's always affordable. How is that going to be defined? How has that been done?
Sure. So what it would do, the way that this is set up is use what's called a qualified administrator model. And what that in short means is that we would work with a land trust model, similar to something like the Atlanta Land Trust, if you're familiar with that, where during the transaction, at the closing, the land trust would be involved in the closing. So they would acquire the land, and then the buyer would acquire the improvement. And so by having the land trust involved in it, it keeps it affordable over time. Now, we also added provision in here that if there's a situation where we can't identify a land trust that could be a partner on this, you would have the option to sell directly to an income qualified buyer using kind of area median income requirement. In that situation, there's a deed restriction that would go on the property for a period of years to ensure that it stays affordable for, I believe, it's 7 years.
How many pieces of property are we putting? We talked about contemplating for this. This is new. I find that really interesting. I don't know if anybody else wants to talk about it. This is interesting to me. I'm trying to figure out if this going to really work. And I'm interested in knowing who are the folks who have these properties. I'm real concerned about that, and making sure that if it is the LLC, that at the end of the day, they're not getting their money and then making a profit and walking away, but it is going to be for something. And I like what you just said, I think on the back end, that said that, the land trust will be involved and that will stay into affordability into perpetuity, or is it just for a certain time period?
Okay, I'm going to take a stab at answering a couple of these. Okay, so who are the properties? When I first started this, there's some in Southwest Atlanta, and I've added NPU-Z and Y and V, and then of course once we get this up and going, if it's successful, then it can spread more, or we can, if you want, Joyce, you can go first. But there are people out there that can identify the properties, contact the owners, and see if they're interested in joining this program. And then, so it's going to sort of behoove us to also get involved with this, find the worst properties in the neighborhood, and try to get a hold of the owners and explain to them about this program. Now, I will say that this is probably not going to be the end-all be-all, because we've been trying to solve this problem for a really, really long time. But this is about as close as we're going to get to deed restrictions in the state of Georgia. So when I've been talking about this, I've been calling it that we're putting deed restrictions, but legally, deed restrictions are not the same in the state of Georgia as they are in some other states. So we're using any tool, which is the tool that he was just talking about. And then let's see, you asked about the time. What was your second question about the time?
Well, I was asking, I heard Josh, Mr. Humphrey said that it was going to be affordable housing with the land bank authority, and I was asking how long would that be? Would that be forever, or would that be for, sometimes you do for 15 years, 20 years, or is it going to be forever? For instance, if somewhere later on, 15, 20 years down the road, somebody decided they want to sell the house, and it's affordable at the time that they purchase it, would it still have to be sold as an affordable house? Or would it still...
Right, they're going to have to live in it. Josh, do we have, is this in the contract?
Yeah, I can talk about it a little bit. So the land trust model, which is the primary model that this would operate under, the land trust would keep it affordable permanently. That's their model, right? That they have a process that every buyer keeps it affordable over time. So that's what we're excited about the way we've been able to set this up, is that we're not talking about just a short number of years, but really kind of the life of this property, that future buyers are going to also have the opportunity to buy it affordably. The backup option I referenced would be the one that if there's not a land trust model that's active at the time that could take the property on, that there would be a qualified buyer, and that would be price restricted over the first 7 years if that situation happens. But we don't think that situation is going to happen often. It's just, we were advised to include that backup option in the way we wrote the contract.
Okay, I need to read it a little bit more. Colin, it's not even about you. You don't have to put me first. I'm just trying to understand the program. So it's not about, I'm just trying to understand how the program works. And so I'm going to have to ask a few more questions, but I won't hold anybody up. I just got to look and read it up a little bit more and get details, and I wasn't prepared for it. So I'm going to just have to read up a little bit more and maybe ask a few more questions. So I'm not sure where I am at this point, Colin.
Okay, well then, listen, is Dawn Luke, can she come in and talk about some of the properties that have already been demoed? Dawn, can you come in and talk about this? And then I'll remove my motion, if you'll remove the second, and we'll just hold this again. Mr. Chair?
Yeah, okay.
Maybe we should just hold it.
Is your paper up to you if you want Ms. Luke to...
I like to have it on consent. So for me, that's kind of a thing. I like my papers.
Then let's hold it, and we can...
Yeah. Now, I just want to hear from Dawn so she can understand. Dawn Luke, can someone unmute her so that she can talk about that? And Ms. Shepherd, this kind of will... Y'all know I'm leaving, but I'm having these moments of greatness. It's funny right before I leave on something that I've been working on for a long, long time. But the code enforcement people will demo a house, as you know, because you've got your code enforcement task force, and then it's like it almost puts people into more trouble because then they owe all this money on that piece of property before they can even sell it. And Dawn, I've got your name wrong. I'm sorry. Anyway, can you do it? Okay, you're good. You're there. Okay, girl.
I'm here. Yes.
For me, because you understand this. You can say this better than I can.
Good afternoon, Council, and thank you, Councilmember Smith, for the opportunity to really walk Council through the program. So the program is a two-tiered program, and so I just want to make sure we're talking about the amendment to the resolution that's before you right now. In this particular tier for the program, these are properties where the City of Atlanta, as Councilmember Smith stated earlier, where the City of Atlanta has had for years to maintain them and eventually gets to a point where they have become a nuisance to their surrounding community, and the City of Atlanta chooses to demolish those units. So these are units that have actually been demolished, and the City of Atlanta, as stated earlier, will put a lien on those properties. Those properties will then go through a process.
Don, are these vacant lots? So
these are vacant properties because they have vacant lots. Yeah, they're vacant lots. Okay. Yes. So they are vacant lots because they have demo liens on them. And so these lots will then, the idea is to really get them back into productive use. The city would go through the process, the judicial process of perfecting those liens in order for the actual property owner to now be required to pay them whatever that lien amount is. So the example that Josh used was about $50,000 of liens. The property owner will now have to pay those liens. In exchange for them having to pay those liens, they can opt into this program and apply. And as a part of the application process, they have to, first of all, show that they have the capacity to build the home, which again addresses the question you raised earlier, Councilmember Shepherd, about whether or not, we want to make sure that those people have the financial capacity, as well as the expertise to actually deliver the home as we expect. And so there will be an application process through the Office of Housing. And as a part of that process, they will basically do their due diligence to ensure that the capacity is there for this particular property owner to build this home. The property owner will then take the $50,000 that is owed in liens, and they will place that funding with an escrow agent who will hold that funding until they have delivered the product as promised. Once they have gone through the process, and throughout this process, as they're building the home, they will actually, the city of Atlanta will have inspectors outside of their normal inspectors to go out and make sure that they're building a quality home, because again, the idea is to have this home in our inventory for perpetuity if possible. And so we want to make sure that, because we know that it's going to be a home that is going to be sold to an income qualified buyer, that the home is of quality standard and will be here for the long term. And so they will, as the home is being built, inspectors will go out from time to time to inspect to make sure that that quality does exist. Once the home is built, the owner will have the ability to invite the land trust, or whatever land trust, whether it's Atlanta Land Trust or any other qualified land trust, to the table. And Josh kind of walked you through that process where that particular land trust will actually enter and they will purchase the land. The qualified home buyer will purchase the property itself. And that way we can keep it in our inventory for perpetuity, because the land trust will always own the land, regardless of what happens with the improvement. And so as a part of that process, the land trust again owns the land, the property owner owns the property, and the idea is that, you know, the home is sold to a qualified income eligible individual or family, and we now have it in our toolkit as a mechanism to continue affordability for perpetuity. And so that is the short answer, but the idea is really to allow those property owners who have liens on their property, demo liens on their property, to be able to have an option to deliver an affordable unit for perpetuity. Hopefully that helps you guys kind of understand a little bit better. If not, I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
You did a much
thank you. That's been very helpful. So I just got one question. So what if the folks don't follow through with this? Then you know, in terms of number one, put the money in escrow and they're going through and they're building it, but it never happens. What would happen then? Would the city literally at that point own the property?
Yes, the city will own, and they will actually have access to those fundings that are on deposit with the escrow agent. And so, again, that was the whole idea. The whole idea is that this participant or this landowner has escrowed the amount, 100% of the amount that is owed to the city. So if they do not deliver the product, we now get the escrow amount, and the city is able to perfect the lien, and they will own the property. So that's ultimately what happens.
Okay.
So there's no risk. The only risk to the city of Atlanta is really minimal. And then again, because you're going to have a screening process in the beginning, because this program is not going to be available for every developer, for every property owner who has a demo lien. They would have to apply through the Office of Housing. They would have to show that they have the qualifications and the expertise and the funding to deliver the product. And so they would have to be selected to participate before we even start the process. They would deposit the amount of the demo lien with an escrow agent who will hold that funding until they have gotten a release from the city to say, you know, please release it. They have met their obligation. So there is no risk to the city of Atlanta.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Carla, I'm already with it at this point. I want this, Miss Don just actually put me through and she actually plugged in some things that I didn't understand. So
yeah,
I'm all right.
Better at explaining it. And like I was trying to say, that it's not perfect. It's just one tool, but what at least it does is some of our, as you know, I've got properties and I got people that are mad at me and, you know, and whatever, because we've got these derelict properties and they're privately owned. There's not a whole lot the city can do, but this gives us one more, we don't have a whole lot of tools, but it gives us one tool that we can use. And what it does for me, the reason that I want to do this, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to execute one all the way to the end, but it gives the property owner, back to that original thing, the 5 families of the parents that own the original house, none of them want to step up and pay those demo liens up, but at least this gives them a choice that maybe if all 5 of them go in and give $10,000 each, and put that money in an escrow account, get into this program, then they will out with a good product. So it gives the homeowner a choice besides, oh, let's just let those liens keep getting interest and penalties and all that. Do you follow what I'm saying?
Yes, I do. I think it's interesting, it's innovative. I would be interested to see how many folks are going to follow through with this. And I'm sure the law department has vetted it. I'm assuming they have, and everything is legal. And so I just be interested to see how many people respond to this. So, and we'll wait to see, but I don't have any problems with it.
So even if one does, then it's still a good thing because we got rid of one derelict property, and now we have an affordable piece of property, and I keep calling it deed restrictions, with deed restrictions on it, so it will stay affordable. And I know I used the wrong verbiage, and the law department's probably jumping up and down saying don't use that. But anyway, I've been working on this for quite a while, and so yeah, everybody has vetted it. So if you're okay with it, and my original motion to approve.
All right, we've got a new motion to approve by Smith, which I will second. Any more questions or comments? Any objections? All right, based on unanimous consent of 7 members present, Mr. Bond, you have joined us, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. There we go. Good deal. Awesome. Based on unanimous consent of 7 members present, this item is favorable.
Thank you all.
You are welcome. All right, colleagues, that is the end of our legislative agenda for the day. Any general remarks or comments?
My turn again?
You got a general remark or comment?
I was just going to make the motion to adjourn.
I'll entertain that. Go for it.
All right, motion to adjourn.
Got a motion to adjourn, which I will second. Based on unanimous consent, we are adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.